Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Oh, okay.
Looks like Colleen's having some issues connecting.
How are you?
Hey, Andrew.
Panting.
Hey, Colleen.
Hey.
Looks like you finally connected.
Yeah. Okay, Yenny. So I made the slide and I haven't been able to find where Catherine posted the link for this week's slide. So do you know?
Message her because we are actually changing up a bunch of things this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The slides have gotten kind of all mishmashed. So yeah, get in touch with her and she's got that stuff.
Okay.
At her in your message.
I'm just sending her a direct message.
Still do the at.
Okay. I don't know what's gone on. I've sucked today. I can't keep track of anything. Like I'm just trying to find, oh no, okay, well, where was the link to phone bank? Where was the link for the Zoom call to the phone bank? Like I don't know. It feels like there's been I feel like I think there's always a lot of threads going on, and it's just today's been a day where they all seem to just be scattering to the winds. Hey, Tab.
He's still connecting to audio.
Oh.
Yeah, I think this whole week has just been crazy.
All right.
Mic check.
How did y'all do connecting?
I had to do a auto registration thing. I just filled in some quick things and just pressed join the meeting in progress at the bottom. That was kind of odd.
Nice. I'm really glad that it does that switch over automatically. We weren't sure.
Yeah.
The switch over to being join the meeting in progress versus getting an email.
Just a heads up. I need to start driving, so I'm gonna turn off my video and I'll be audio only.
Tab, have you made breakout rooms before?
I have not. I actually have not a clue how those work. I was hoping someone else might be able to take
think
point on
Catherine
that part of
knows.
it.
I think Catherine
Okay.
knows.
Yeah. For a millennial, I am surprisingly, I feel like it's not like I'm tech illiterate, but I pick up stuff a little bit slower than I feel like I should based on my generation.
I feel like Slack is not Slack, well, Slack too, but Zoom is excessively obtuse. It makes things difficult for itself.
But still is much better than I use for my work. We use Skype and Teams. It is still miles better than, probably not in terms of security, but in terms of like, oh, you can raise hands and like go to breakout rooms and stuff. Like it is still easier, I think, than, yeah. Andrew's got a comment saying Teams is appalling, and it is so much less appalling than Skype even, which is. Don't get me started on Skype.
Skype does have a cool feature in Unique Translate, in the live translate rather, not Unique Translate. What brain? My arm
Looks
is doing
like we all
slightly
have
better from earlier.
I was about to ask, are you in a little less pain? Hopefully the bowl takes a little bit of it away.
Well, it actually, like, I've stretched while we were on the call and it popped out. So like I was in like, nothing is registering in my brain. I'm surprised I even got the sentence that I said out.
Oh man. They're like meeting stuff, pain. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Good to know that everyone is on the same page about Skype and Teams being the devil's spawn, or whatever a good idiom for that is. All right. I'm seeing it's 8:30 now, but let's give it a couple more minutes. I see people are still trickling in. That's all right.
Yeah, I think the registration thing is gonna slow some people down.
I recall there being conversation that with this little new changeover on the way Zoom is working with registrations, that we would allow for about, I thought, 10 minutes for people to come in instead of the usual 5. Is that still understood?
That doesn't sound like a bad idea to me, especially since it's the first time we're doing registration.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Were other board members joining us?
Looks like Gray just jumped on. GPS is driving, I believe. You're here. I'm here. I assume they're coming.
Hello.
Hey, Gray.
Who's up, Gray? How you doing, Colleen? I like your hair.
Nice.
You're muted.
I've been muted. Okay. I don't know if it'll come out, but I've got a good sunset happening now. Yeah, that's working out. Okay. But yeah, pink hair has been the best part of my weekend. Something's got to be.
Hear that?
Yeah. All right. Yes. Okay. I didn't find the links for my slides, so I need to go see on my other device if Catherine has sent that, so I can add the comms link to the slide.
so-
Yeah.
Tab, would you mind? Do you
Drop
have the info on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this week we're, and I'll elaborate a little bit more once we officially start the meeting. But we're going to switch up the format a little bit this week, where the updates will be, we'll post the updates, like the link to them for the working groups in the chat, as well as in the Slack channels. People are welcome to look over them if they want to see what the different working groups have been working on this week. But we are hoping to utilize a lot of the more, I guess, spoken time addressing other things and making our meetings a little bit more inclusive and getting, discussing and making sure that, I guess, everyone's voice is heard and getting to, I guess, fostering a little bit more community. So we're going to try to switch some things up, and obviously we're totally open to feedback and seeing like if y'all have additional ideas, what works and what doesn't, you know, we're evolving.
We did need a spot for putting in the volunteer need from comms. Is there still a slide for that? Because I just for everyone else to know, I was not present most of the day today. So I don't have that info, but we do have a fairly urgent need for more volunteers in comms that we need to put out there.
All right, let's get started. Got a big.
Catherine, we agreed to extend to 10 minutes since registration's new to folks.
All right. Do we want to share the screen and kind of show people what the agenda is tonight while we're waiting for others to come in?
Sure.
I think only the host can share right now.
Okay. Let me
Fixing. Fixed.
All right, I can share it. All right, share. All right, so once people get in here, we're just doing an overview for new folks that are here. And then we're talking about our kind of focusing into candidate and COVID relief calling. And, you know, we can talk about the Jermaine Johnson race that is going on right now. And his primary is on Tuesday. So we're just getting as many people as possible into phone banking. And then the COVID relief calling will be done later in the call because one of the main COVID relief callers who's coming to answer questions, he's not available till 9. Erica and Tom are going to hop on at 8:45 and they're going to talk about kind of the new changes that are happening, you know, what Tom and Stasha posted, and, you know, Erica from Humanity Forward talking about the plan that, you know, we're about to get into. And then at 9, Brenna will talk about the COVID relief calling, and Nancy and Daniel are coming, who are, you know, have been doing amazing work, but we just need to recruit more COVID relief calling volunteers. And, you know, they'll kind of be open for folks taking questions. And then Mission and Vision is going to pop in. They just got another chunk of, you know, considered work done that they want to share with everyone here. And then at 9:15, we're going to break up into smaller Zoom breakout rooms, like 4 or 5 people each, to kind of talk about, like, in this moment of COVID and these police accountability protests, and, you know, like what's going on and what should be happening for our organization, what's happening at your local chapters. You know, just however you want to take the prompt question and discuss in the smaller groups. And then we come back from those smaller groups and folks can share, you know, some of the stuff that they really want the larger group to hear.
Absolutely. Thank you for that breakdown, Catherine. All right, 1 minute. T-minus 1 minute.
All right.
All right. I'm seeing 7:40 on my clock, so let's go ahead and kick this off, get it rolling. So thank you, all of you, for joining us. Seen a lot of new faces today. So Catherine gave a beautiful overview of what our meeting is going to look like today. We're making a couple of changes from our usual structure to get people a little bit more involved and hear everyone's voice. So yeah, we also want to make sure that y'all get an overview of what's going on in our org, as well as fill y'all in on some of the changes and shifts that we're making as an organization to respond to the current climate. As Andrew Yang has said, we're in a crisis on top of a crisis on top of a crisis. And as a dynamic organization, we want to be able to pivot and meet the needs of the moment. So to that end, let's, I guess, a quick overview for new folks. How do we get involved? We came out of the Yang 2020 movement. We have weekly calls. We have a lot of work going on both internally and externally in terms of volunteer action, which we'll touch a little bit more on later. We go to the next, So for an interim board update, I'll quickly give a little spiel and then turn it over to Tom and Erica to go over some of this. But Tom, Stasha, and Ian are stepping back from the board to take a more hands-on role across candidate support and volunteer opportunities. Thank you all for all you have done. And their actions, or their shift is more, again, we want to be able to meet the needs of the moment, and they know that as people have been very involved in that area, they can add value now when we need it for those activities. So thank you for taking on those initiatives, Tom, Stasha, and Ian, if you're out there. So we also have a grassroots meeting with Andrew Yang on Monday. And as an organization, we are going to try to roll out a new workspace that's dedicated to streamlining volunteer opportunities and external action. That way we can sort of, have a clearer and more defined way to explore those opportunities and a more, focused set of communication around that. And I believe that Tom, I think you're on. If you want to go ahead and talk about, as a leader in that space, what that's going to look like and how we are going to explore that.
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. Thank you for putting that so clearly, Tab. So very similar to what he was saying, the goal of us stepping down is not to say that there are any issues with the organization, but simply to say that we are in a different time and there are very pressing needs. And the best way that we can focus on some of those efforts is to be as hands-on as we possibly can. Right now, I'm sitting in my car after finishing out just another round of canvassing. And it's an exciting time to see what some of the work on the ground looks like. In terms of boosting those efforts, one of the things that we are doing is very intentionally focusing in on candidate support, on congressional pressure, on COVID relief calls, and understanding that those are the things that we are best equipped to tackle, and just being as intentional with it as we possibly can. There's no separation from our engagement with HFM. I'm every bit as hopeful that we're going to grow and build not just a national organization, but one that's truly going to make a powerful impact. So I'm every bit as excited. For everybody that had questions, concerns, thoughts, that reached out with support, thank you. We are going to be doing this fight for quite some time, and I'm very excited to be a part of it. Let me know if there's anything else I need to say, Tab. I think that sounds about right.
Do folks have any questions?
Yeah, we can do questions.
I can't see Zoom hands, so if someone else wants to kind of call them out if they see them.
Can I just ask something?
Yeah, go for
Go
it.
ahead.
So I wanted to ask, so I know it's each individual's priority and intention for, you know, because we're all volunteers, so everyone's time is valuable. And obviously, like, where we feel drawn to or called to is valuable. But I guess I'm concerned because we've had multiple interim board members sort of leave these positions in a kind of a very sudden occurrence. And I'm wondering, should we have rules in place for how members will feel responsible or compelled to serve out their terms?
Yes, so that's part of what goes into building the organization and realizing that there is a lot more structure that needs to be laid out. That is something that we are every bit as committed to, but it takes time. And at this stage, it was an uncomfortable decision. It was one that I had a lot of consideration with, but ultimately I felt like I needed to take that leap. So absolutely, I do agree there needs to be those types of things in place, but in this very specific instance, we are dealing with a lot of very rapidly moving pieces in the world, and taking a leap felt like the absolute best thing to do.
I understand. And my last question is, I know that per the memo, which you and Stasia had written together, when you said you were going to leave to directly work with HF, do you have any, intentions in asking HF to also support us in return?
Yes, and so that's very similar to what Tab had just mentioned. I know it's something that Erica will be bringing up as well. I just see that in the chat, so it lines up very well. The whole idea is that HF has those very specific 3 priorities, and so being able to focus in on those is one of the benefits. It also gives a little bit more, I would say, wiggle room and freedom for HFM to continue building this broader organization, which we know is going to have the lasting impact.
I guess I believe that to be true. Like, I know that we're aligned, obviously, and we have certain policies we can help each other with. But I guess my concern also is that we haven't heard Andrew Yang or HF actually acknowledge Humanity First Movement as the volunteer organization that's helping out with these efforts. And I think it would go a long way for us to build the volunteer efforts and also the grassroots in order to support these initiatives if Andrew or HF were to come out and actually like start promoting us as well, is what I'm getting at.
Personally, I don't believe that's now a question that I'm best suited to answer. I think that's something that's better to pass to Tab or Erica, but I do agree that there is a partnership that we need to continue to build upon and define.
Thanks, Tom.
Erica is on the call right now if she feels comfortable responding to that.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. First time in on this meeting, probably not the last. So yeah, that's a reasonable question. I guess there wasn't a lot of clarity about how we were going to process our relationship. I know it sounds really, I don't know, not like, I think because we were in the middle of developing the partnership, that we actually didn't have like a roadmap for how to promote the organization. I went on some, a podcast here and there and publicly spoke about HFM from my point of view, because I'm working with you guys directly all the time, but I haven't really had a chance to give any kind of speaking points to Andrew or like the direction we should go in with that, because we hadn't really defined the partnership and had that clarity. And I didn't want to misstep in giving him information. I hope that's helpful. But going forward, we're going to figure all of that out and be able to speak intelligently, publicly about what Humanity First is. I didn't also want to confuse the constituents. I think there was room for that to be the case, where there'd be a lot of confusion. So I would always want to come to HFM first before I actually would say how our relationship was at the time. And, you know, if I'm doing that, that means I'm not really able to give words for Andrew to use. So once we get that clarified, it'll be fine. You'll hear more about you guys from Humanity forward.
Erica, can you talk about the relationship between the new Slack that we're talking about opening and the current one, like the division and what will be in one, what will be in the other, how all the state chapters should relate to Humanity Forward versus the Humanity First movement?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let's see here. We are really focused right now because of the conditions of the state of our country. We are trying to make it so that we have a quick response to what's going on. So we thought, because the Slack that HFM has right now has a lot going on, and we wanted to bring clarity to our initiatives. We wanted to make sure that the things that we're working on that require volunteer support, which we are so grateful for in every kind of way, that it was clear what we needed. I found it a little difficult we were having trouble communicating on what we needed. I wasn't sure where to put it and things like that. And the more that we're sort of have some direct input with that, the clearer it will be, I think, for what we need from a volunteer network. So our Slack is involved with our calling and text banking, the email support team, Humanity Hangs moderators, COVID relief, data and research. I'm doing this off the top of my head and it's Sunday, so forgive me if I miss one. Outreach, and I know there's another one. Can any of the board help me if I missed one that you remember I said? I think those are the primary ones. And each one is really about what we're focusing on. It has nothing to do with like I just want you all to know that there's the relationship between Humanity First movement and Humanity Forward is still in the same page as it was before the changes that have happened. I just hope I can put that confidence out there that we still, want to support what you're doing. What the organization that you're building is very interesting in having you're not doing a top-down thing. It's grassroots oriented. I think it all makes sense. But because of the condition of the country, we absolutely have to function in the way we do, which is top-down. And the reason for that is just because, we basically are putting into play what Andrew needs. That's what Humanity Forward is, as well as the movement. So I hope you don't think that these changes are changing any of that. We're very excited to do what we need to for Humanity First movement. We really can't exist one without the other. I think, we have the very national broad scope of things. We're in the media all the time. We have that kind of to contend with, where I think the grassroots, you're so important to the ground level. The local information that you're going to be bringing to the table going forward from this point forward is critical. We can't have one without the other. It's a very symbiotic relationship, and we want to make sure it stays that way. So, Tom and Stasha and Ian leaving, it doesn't change anything. They're just refocusing on some things that they think will be best for the movement from their end of things. So
actually, there's a number of people who have their hands up, so I'm wondering if we can just have them, the 6 of them, kind of just take 30 seconds, kind of say what their question is, and then that will give Erica an opportunity to respond. But we'll go back and let people clarify their questions too. But it's Angelo, then Andrew, Stephen, Kim, Brendan, and then Elaine. So Angelo, do you want to start?
Certainly. I just wanted to ask, how are the vacant board positions being filled? Is someone being appointed or a prior board member with a standing NDA stepping in to fill that role? Or obviously there's no time for special elections at this moment. So I'm just curious how those roles are being filled.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure that out after this meeting, but Erica kind of is not the answerer for that, but we'll pin that for the moment. Andrew?
Angelo had my exact same question. How are the vacancies of the board positions going to get filled?
All right, we will answer that really quickly, but not right at this moment. Stephen, go for it.
Yeah, I have one question is, what's the process of gaining access to this new Slack by each individual campaign? And what kind of, what's the, I guess, relationship that you guys plan on building with each campaign going forward with that Slack? And also, how were the members that left the interim board chosen to be in the Slack?
Good questions. Okay, so in terms of how we plan on supporting candidates that we've endorsed, it's mostly finding out what their needs are and supplying the volunteers to fill them. That's really what it's all about. Most likely, just like with Jermaine's campaign, it'll be text banking and phone banking, primarily phone banking, I think, at this time, if I'm not mistaken. But yes, how did we choose our leads? Well, I don't know if you all are aware, but we already have had a lot of this going on already. So it's just the people that I've naturally been working with in the first place. So that's how it happens.
Okay, and then next is Kim, but I think everyone that wants to get in the Slack will be able to.
Oh,
It's not a selective invite.
It's just that part of it.
It's just not open yet, but it's coming in the next couple of days.
Yeah, let me fill you in with that. So our process right now is the Slack is mostly set up, but we just wanted to make sure that the onboarding part of it is very clear. So we have a form that I'm going to give out at some point, probably tomorrow, to those that can pass it out to everyone else. I'll maybe post it in the Slack, the current HFM Slack, so that you can begin onboarding with us if there's interest in working with our initiatives. You will be added to a volunteer list as well as the Slack, and you will be getting regular updates directly from Humanity Forward about our initiatives. So that's about what I can tell you for now. We're having our first team volunteer lead meeting this coming week, and there'll be way more clarity after that, because we've really got to get all of the parts moving together and as fast as we can. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. So you should be hearing from us either Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, Kim?
Kim?
I think she's
unmuted. You're muted.
Hi, sorry. Thanks, Erica, for being here. We recently finished our final mission statement in the Vision and Mission Working Group, which will be shared later in this meeting. I know we had an initial meeting with you a while back. I also wanted to ask, I know you have a lot going on in your organization. You have a 501c4. I think you're working on, or you have set up a 501c3, maybe a potential PAC in the future. You have the podcast, you have Andrew Yang's brand, and you know all the multitude of opportunities that Andrew Yang may be involved in. So I'm trying to understand more about your focus and priorities because you have so much going on and you have kind of a small staff. And then as well, what is kind of your status on your vision and mission? And I'm guessing it's for the 501c4, like has there been further development on that, you know, or do you anticipate having something more fleshed out that will be shared?
So I think you're asking what our mission statement is. I think that's what you're asking. We do have that pretty fleshed out, and in general, it's, you know, to mainstream the ideas from the Andrew Yang campaign to focus on a more human-centered society. And this is not the exact wording. I'm doing it off the top of my head. It's Sunday, people. Yeah, human-centered society and a 21st century government that's able to respond. So that's the general message of our mission statement. And actually, we're doing a website redesign because we know that our site is like not up to the level it needs to be, and especially since we took down the Andrew Yang website because the campaign is finally completely shut down. The policies aren't there. We have to get all of that in order. So I'm the operations director, so I'm focused on those things as well as the organizing. As a whole, we are focused on, it's really hard to, we're focused on the 3 initiatives that we are asking for help with from you all: endorsing candidates, COVID relief, and agitating Congress. Those are the 3 things that we're working on before, but even now with the new state of things in America, we kind of have to pivot towards supporting some criminal justice organizations that are we know that we're not, that's not our brand really, to be in the middle of criminal justice issues, but we also want to be supportive of it and guide people to the people that have been working on it for years. So that's going to be a bit of our shift. We're going to start doing some more of that. I don't know if you've seen any of our Humanity Forward posts, but we've been doing a lot to support Black Lives Matters and, you know, doing that kind of thing. So those are our focuses. We've got some internal operations to improve just because we are so small. We just hired on Shelby Summerfield, who was the SCAD director for the campaign. She's amazing, and she's helping us get our processes in place so that we're more functional and less reactive. My internet's unstable. Can
All
you guys
right,
hear me?
Brendan?
Yeah, I'm 100% confident in Andrew Yang and Humanity Forward and the Humanity First movement. Man, what a bunch of trials it's been, like conflict on top of a.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
He was saying he was having issues with his internet.
We'll come back to him. Elaine?
I had a few questions, and I thank you, Erica, so much for your time.
Damn it.
Oh, is Brendan coming back?
Are you back, Brendan?
I mean, I was hearing you the whole time. I'm great. I swear it's the Phoenix Police Department. We just upgraded our internet. Okay. So, yeah, so it's been like a crucible, and like all of us have been through so much. And I just think that a lot of our members are thinking like, is Humanity Forward still dedicated to this idea of bottom-up political change and economic change and building a movement? And I haven't seen any evidence to say that you all aren't. So I'm 100% confident. I just hope that we're proceeding towards this direction where we have chapters throughout the country that are creating these close-knit groups of volunteers that will be able to act.
Oh, come on, Brendan.
Political. I'm sorry, guys. This will be my last comment. It's just we really need chapters. We need people around the country to keep pushing for political change and volunteering and engaging in their communities. And as long as that's still in the future, I think we can all agree it's the direction we need to go. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, Brendan. It's, like I said earlier, there's this very symbiotic relationship, and, you know, you guys are, the local level is absolutely critical. I mean, I don't know how we build a movement without it. So thank you for those comments, and I think we're in agreement. And I will say, I'm just looking at some of the comments that are in the chat. Data-driven solutions is our brand, and I will say that I think our biggest challenge is because we're so data-driven and we have very intelligent answers to the problems that are happening in America, that our challenge is that America is on average is at a 3rd grade reading level. And we have to be able to communicate where people are. And I think sometimes we love our data so much that we forget that other people don't or understand it as well. So I think part of the things that we're going to have to really work on, and I would include Andrew in this, is that we have to get the message. I mean, Trump won because he said things like build the wall. I mean, it's so basic. Ours is not, we don't have a basic message. We have a very complex, in-depth, solution-oriented answer to problems. So we really need to figure out a way to communicate to a broader scheme of a broader, broaden our audience, basically. Because we love talking to ourselves. We are really good at that. We love hearing how great Andrew is. We love hearing how wonderful his solutions are, but we need to make it digestible for the rest of the country if we want to win this, win the government and turn this place into what we want to live in.
Okay,
All
just to be in a time check, we're kind of like blowing through and kind of pushing into mission and vision and COVID calling. So Elaine and Stephen kind of are going to be the last two for here, and then we'll come back to this as well. So Elaine.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time, especially yours too, Erica, for being here. So I'll just leave it to the one question I have is, how do you or HF see the separate volunteer Slack? Do you see it as relying on the Yang Gang, which is Humanity First movement? And then also, was this a topic of discussions or was it a consideration with the interim board?
Yes, it was a topic of discussion with the interim board, but it has been percolating up.
So does that mean the greater HFM movement did not know that there was always going to be talks about a separate volunteer Slack?
If I'm remembering correctly, I feel like it just came up this week, and like we hadn't yet met with Erica to talk about it, but it was like raised in a chat about as a possibility.
So how would that like take away from the movement if we have many of our members going over to the HF Slack?
I think this is probably a conversation that we need to have here. Oh, sorry, Centra.
I think that I can answer that pretty well. So it's not that the Humanity Forward Slack is going to take away from Humanity First movement and what we are building. A lot of Humanity First movement is going to be how we collect ourselves at a local and regional level, and some of the work for what we're doing is going to be funneled through the Humanity Forward Slack. That's in the same way that the Yang campaign had a Slack where you would go into a channel to get information about text banking or information about phone banking, and then a lot of the other regional stuff happened with your state Yang Gang, which was either on Facebook or on Twitter or on phone lines or however you communicated. Humanity First movement Slack is going to be about the communication and organizing, versus the separated Slack is going to be to keep all of the work that needs to be done in a very clear and clean format. Does that make sense? Was that satisfying?
So are we basically rebuilding what we built already in the Slack we have in the HF Slack? That's what I'm trying to get.
Some of it, yeah. We're going to move like the volunteer operations over there, like the phone banking and the text banking and all of that will be out of here. And then like all of the kind of working groups and like mission and vision and diversity and, regional organizing and like all of that stuff that we need is still over here, but we're just not going to be onboarding volunteers who, have never, have no orientation to the whole network that already exists out there. So there's like a bifurcation of organizers versus like new folks. And all of those new folks that go into Humanity Forward, like they're going to get onboarded to their states. So you'll have them at the state level.
So then does that mean that we would be able to mobilize volunteers for potentially HFM initiatives, or is it mostly for HF initiatives?
I would say both.
I mean, it seems like it would be both. I'm just trying to figure out the kind of the fine line, the overlap going on.
I think,
yeah.
It sounds to me like you're asking, like, is there some separation of some kind that needs to be clear? And I guess the clearest way to say it is we have needs for specific volunteer tasks, and those need absolute fast, rapid response. and direct communication. And for Humanity Forward, it was very difficult to communicate in HFM Slack because we didn't need to be in the working groups. We didn't need to see, like, we needed a way more condensed version of being able to communicate with our people who are working on our initiatives. That's really the only reason from my perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Steven?
Sure.
I guess go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just reading the questions in the chat. I don't know how you guys do things with this meeting, so I'm just gonna be quiet until I'm asked to talk.
I think some of the things she kind of just echoes what Elaine just said. Since HF is taking over candidate support essentially, does HF have any plans on reactivating Mobilize or any type of alternative web-based platform to mobilize mass amounts of volunteers? Or, well, basically something that's more accessible than just Slack or any type of closed-off system like that. Because Mobilize went off the moment this campaign suspended, you know. And also echoing on what Elaine said, I was going to ask, what is the division between the swim lanes of candidate support between HFM and HF going forward, if essentially HF is absorbing most of the functions of candidate support from HFM?
What do you need us for?
That's okay. So the first part of your question is my favorite thing that we're working on is the CRM. I'm an IT person. I came from the IT department of the Yang campaign, and my most frustrating thing was Mobilize. I just, I don't know how the organizers felt about it, but there was really some really cool things about it, but I want us to have like 21st century best ever organizing software that ever existed on the planet for, you know, getting new volunteers and supporters. I want it to be the coolest thing, and it be functional, and Humanity Forward uses it, and Humanity First movement uses it for our individual needs. So that you don't have to worry about. We're gonna replace Mobilize is what I want to do. At least that's I have a large drive to do that. And we have a team that's been working on figuring out what the scope of what that could look like. Now for the second question, well, with the conditions as things are now, I don't anymore. I did want it to be up and like have something fleshed out and started by the beginning of July, and it's still a possibility. But I really need to get these other things that are a priority focused on, and once we have that all settled, I can go back to look at the CRM. And that's one reason why we brought tech as one of the volunteer opportunities, because I want to be close in on that conversation. And I haven't been lately because I haven't been able to make time in my bandwidth for the meetings that are going on with HFM. So the second question was, like, I guess, do you feel like you're going to lose your volunteer opportunities? No, you're still our volunteer network. It's just in a different spot because we need to better communicate with you. It's the same thing. It's just your Slack is more organization and structural based, and our Slack has to be more volunteer oriented for our things. You can still do volunteer things that you want to do on your own, like for Income Movement or some other organization. I see that still existing.
They're a whole other separate organization.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I said Income Movement, I think, is their own organization.
Right. So if you're doing volunteer things with them or for them, that you guys are coordinating that without us. I mean, we don't have anything to do with that. Humanity Forward is not coordinating that in any way. We are involved to a certain degree because we know about it, and we have our own relationship with Income Movement that we do things with. So I don't know how to make you feel comfortable that we are not trying to take away your volunteer opportunities. We're just moving them into different areas so we can communicate better with you. That's it.
And also, I think
Yeah,
we're not going to have the answer to all these questions tonight, but we've kind of, we're at this point. The volunteer Slack that Erica's talking about is going to launch sometime this week. Anyone that wants to join will be able to go through their onboarding process and join, and then we'll, kind of see what's up. And Humanity Forward, it's still an organization that's under, 15 or 10 people. And then, we are like the core, people who are most excited about their ideas. So we have to, work together. So we'll see what that looks like as it goes.
I just want to answer sorry, Tab. I just want to answer one question that's in here. Who's managing the HF Slack? It's actually staff. We have an IT person on staff that's overall managing it, but incoming members and things like that is going to be a group effort. Okay. Sorry, Tab.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
No. I'm the one who is sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you. These are all awesome questions. I think as we've sort of determined, some of these are tough to answer right now. Some of these, and I understand that some of these changes feel a little bit sudden, but rest assured that, as a board member, I can assure you that and as Erica said, these are intentional moves that we're making in order to affect change that we can create now. And while some of these are sudden, they are calculated, and they are, in everyone's best interest to make sure that we can do the work we need to do, as well as on the back end, build a grassroots movement that is also part of the larger picture. So it is really a move towards a symbiotic relationship. And personally, I see it as a strengthening of Humanity Forward and Humanity First movement relationship, that we can be flexible and adapt to the changing needs of the time. Unfortunately, I do think we are a little bit over time on this section, and the next part of this, or the next item on the meeting is an update on the phone banking COVID relief initiative. I'll turn it over to Brenna. Her voice is a lot nicer than mine. So Brenna, go for it.
Real quick, Tab, do you mind if I add one final point? I've got to hop off very
Go
quickly.
ahead.
My apologies. So the one additional piece of context I would like to add on top of everything that Tab and Erica and everybody's been saying is that we just have extremely pressing needs. We are going to see candidates that we've already watched candidates whose campaigns have passed us by. And we have a number of elections that are right around the corner. The closest is the one that I'm personally working on right here on the ground. It's Dr. Jermaine Johnson, who has a direct ear to people like Jamie Harrison, who is going up against Lindsey Graham. We are pushing as quickly as we can to get that done. And it just it's a necessary step for us to really move quickly while freeing us up to build out and expand the organization in the intentional way that has been going on. So if anybody, thank you for pointing that up. Anybody and everybody, please jump on and help us with this final push. Tomorrow is our last real big day to get people to the polls, and we're very excited about it. So thank you so much for understanding. I absolutely want to be available because I know that a public resignation brings and prompts a lot of questions. So please reach out. I do want to be able to get to those answers. So thank you to the board for organizing this and making sure that we had a chance to add some more clarity.
All right.
Thank you, Tom.
We're going to jump ahead. We're going to come back to mission and vision, but because there's some folks on here visiting to talk about phone banking and what it's like to do the COVID phone banking, we'd like to jump to them real quick. So Brenna.
Yes. Okay. So phone banking. So as we talk about what our priorities are, first and foremost is candidate support, because as Tom said so wonderfully, we have campaigns that are coming up literally in 48 hours. And then we have a whole slew of campaigns coming up at the end of June, on June 23rd. So we've got a lot of work to do to make sure we're focused and progressing those candidates. Something that we do have going on every single day is phone banking for COVID relief calling. So on specific days, we'll have candidate asks. So please focus your time on those if you can. But any other day, you can join us for COVID relief calling. So there have been over 100,000 applicants to Humanity Forward's COVID Relief Fund. We are working through that list from top to bottom. So the first people that applied are the first people that will be receiving aid. So what we're doing is first we're emailing them to have them confirm their PayPal information. If they don't respond to that, we text them, have them confirm their payment information. And then our third attempt is going to be through calling. So to get started with calling, there's a quick 20-minute video to watch, and then you take a quick quiz afterwards, and then you're ready, set, go to make these phone calls. It's really fantastic because the open BPB that we use, the open virtual phone bank for these COVID calls, directly transfers into a lot of the calling programs that our candidates are using too, which is pretty cool. But to get started, we're seeing it on the screen right now. You watch a quick video, that's by me, take a quiz, get added to the Slack channel, and you're ready to start making phone calls. People, if you have questions about calling, I do know that Nancy and is Daniel on too? To answer questions?
Yep. So some of our champion folks that have been working on this.
Callers. Yeah. I'm gonna kick it over to you guys because you're the experts. I'm just here.
Trying to get Daniel to unmute, but oh, good.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what's going on?
Do you want to tell us what it's like to make calls?
It's interesting. I mean, I hear a lot of people's pain and grieving, and I try to bang them out as fast as I can. But yeah, I think for the most part, I enjoy helping other people, so it's pretty cool.
And Nancy, did you want to say something about the need for callers?
Yeah, sure. The actual calling, I mean, the day-to-day, well, I can't do it every day because I have a regular job, but when I do get a chance to make calls, the actual process of calling is very rewarding. The range of need is anything from maybe a single mom who is, you know, they were making $2 an hour as a server, and they either don't even have that yet, or you know, the restaurant closed or something. They have no income. They can't get their unemployment. And even though $250 seems like not that much, sometimes it can make the difference between whether they can pay their rent or get groceries. Some people can't get to the food banks. So the appreciation level is high of the people that we call, and we actually get the process rolling for them to get the money. It's very rare that I find anybody that I don't think needs it. And even if I have that opinion, I don't express that kind of judgment. I mean, we just need to get money out into circulation. You know, I mean, whoever applied is probably not a millionaire and needs it on some level. There's an extreme range of, in my opinion, you know, what the need is, but the need, you know, I'm never going to say, no, you can't have it unless they start swearing at me or something. We've had a number of people who say, please give this to someone else. I don't need it anymore. Maybe they got back to work, or one guy had a family inheritance, you know, so I thank them for their honesty and move on. I think the only thing that's frustrating is that the number of people who have applied, if I do the math, it appears to be, I don't know, this is, even with the new procedures that we have, it seems like this could take months. I mean, Brenna, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but not only could it go on for months and months, but we still have the applications open on the website, so the list will grow. So I hope the donations, you know, like the large donations especially, but any donations will grow. And the other thing is, it's hard to get, I have a lot of friends who are interested in the issues that you are fighting for, but I'm having a hard time getting new callers. Friends I have are either too busy doing other volunteer things, or they're just struggling to make a living. So if you if you know anyone who could join this, we really, right, Brenna, need many, many, many new people to do the calling.
Absolutely. We are always looking for more callers. Like even the people that are calling the most can only take a couple hundred phone calls, and we have thousands of calls to be making. So we're always looking for more people. And one great thing about this is it's not political work. This is purely humanitarian work. We are just giving people money. We are not asking them to subscribe to Andrew Yang's beliefs. So if you have friends or family members that are interested in getting involved but aren't necessarily like full Yang Gang or whatever, they can still join our calling program, and we would love to have them.
Yes, these aren't cold calls. I mean, if you've ever done any kind of calling, which I'm sure all of you have, this is the opposite of cold calling. I mean, these people have applied, and the only resistance you get is, and we hope this will change with the new system where they're contacted first by text or email. The only resistance is the obvious thing of people don't want to pick up the phone if they don't know who's on the other end. So I usually text them first, and or I call and then I text and then I call them again. So there are different methods. I mean, you can go through many calls and see how many you can get, or you can text a lot of people and see how you can collect contacts that way. Either way works, but we just need more callers because we're just deluged with some of the requests go back to March. We're still working on some cleanup things that go back to March that are really hard to reach people, but it doesn't mean they're not in need. I mean, some people just made a typo in their email address, things like that, or they changed their PayPal, or they didn't have a PayPal account, they didn't understand something, they lost their email, whatever. I mean, it's just an amazing number of things that you'd be surprised at sometimes. In some cases, it's actually hard to give away money. So we're working on those stragglers from March still. So those are on top of all the new ones that have come in.
Can I just wanted to say publicly that, gosh, Nancy she's so helpful in her work that she's doing. The difficulty that we are facing is literally we are still sending people money from March. We're just maybe cutting into April. Like, that is really difficult. We need campaign style donations for this program, and we don't, and that it's just not the environment for it. So, there's going to be a lot of people that are waiting a long time, and it's very difficult. That's one difficulty of it. So, I just want to say thank you before I go. I do have to go. I appreciate all of you so much. And, Brenna, you're amazing. I will see you guys soon again. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica, for your time.
Hey, Daniel, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you efficiently, oh, he might be gone. Daniel's a good person to connect with because he is like cranking out hundreds of calls a week. So if you want to reach him and like find out any tips about how to be efficient, he is, really putting in the time and just getting through to people in a way that we really need to do. And then this is the other reason why the bailoutthepeople.com lobbying is so important, because, Congress can free up so much more money. So, definitely use that website and rate your peeps. Let's pivot to, does anyone else have any additional questions for Nancy before we kind of pivot to mission and vision?
I'll just add to the shout out for Daniel, even though he's not here. He's made more calls than anybody. We're kind of doing slightly different things. I volunteered to help Brenna with the troubleshooting the difficult ones, and Daniel is our rock star who just plows through the lists. He does 10 times more calling than anybody else.
Thank you for joining us, Nancy. I really appreciate you coming on to talk to people and kind of really just share how impactful it is. And people are just so, like, when I'm reading in your channel, like the messages people are sending and just how desperate they are. I mean, it's amazing how $250 it really just kind of saves people's bacons, you know, and it's such a gift to be able to do that, and very heartwarming when we're just kind of like fighting through everything else that's going on. But you can really, you know, just put in the time, do like 20, 40, you know, calls, reach some people, and wow, you know, you'll feel like you've accomplished something because you really will have.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, when I get, well, you see the messages from other callers. Wow, that made my day. You know, the last call, I got some money out to somebody. Yeah, it is. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I'm gonna sign out. Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah, and I'll just very, very quickly say that if you have not had the chance to make these calls before, I believe you owe it to yourself to at least try, because I live by the fact, by one of the sayings is that if you have an opportunity to make someone's day, you better take that fucking opportunity. And if we didn't have this quarantine right now, we'd essentially be able to like go out in the streets, get $250 and give it to someone's hand and see how much that just turns their day around completely. And that's basically what we're doing now, but unfortunately with social distance guidelines, so we're making phone calls instead. So if you haven't done it before, I warmly welcome you to do to at least try. It's fascinating.
And Brenna can probably speak to this better, but like they are really, you know, doing as much as they can through emailing, texts, and a lot of people are able to confirm their accounts and get paid without needing the calling. So you're really helping the people that are having the most trouble and really need the help. So, you know, but like the large percentage of people like know how to like sign in and confirm their PayPal.
Yeah, so like we're looking at like almost 75% confirmed through email or text message. So we're just calling that final 25%.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Nancy. So we are over time. It is 9:30. So we want Mission and Vision to kind of do their presentation now. But then I hope folks can like stay on an extra like 15 minutes to join the conversation we'd like you all to have. Let's go back to Mission and Vision.
Awesome. Oh, nope.
Ew.
Missed it.
So close. All right. Anyways, Greg, go for it. Oh, life is hard.
All right. Well, I just want to say thanks to everyone who gave us lots of feedback, and a huge thanks to everyone who was on the team that worked on Mission Vision. We spent a lot of time both in meetings and then outside of meetings writing and researching and wordsmithing to come up with a mission. I know that there was a lot of last minute feedback on when things people would like to see added or things they felt differently about, but we did send out multiple surveys, and the last approval survey, we got 158 people to respond to it, which is pretty awesome. And we had only 10 people disapprove, saying that it did not at all meet what they thought this group should be doing. So that puts us at a 93%. That would have been a pretty good grade for me when I was in school. And we did have an average score of 4.27 out of 5. So that's awesome. The mission, I'll read it out just so you can hear, but our mission is to amplify the voice of the people, to put integrity and humanity first. We champion policies that value human well-being over profit and tackle economic inequity at its roots, capturing opportunities for communities to thrive. We engage elected officials, advance candidates, and support community leaders by galvanizing a broad coalition and mobilizing a grassroots movement. So I think that a lot of why all of us have decided to continue to work with this group after the campaign is over is that there are changes we saw in our government that we think we can make and should make. And a lot of that comes through our mobilizing a grassroots effort and then taking on especially like a valuing of our humanity and the economic inequity that is causing some of that to be undone. So again, huge shout out to especially Ian Ratner and Kimberly Woods, who helped lead this group, and then everyone on the team who spent countless hours putting this together. Excited about moving forward on this with all of you, and yeah, thank you again. Looking forward to getting on the phones. Spent a lot of time on the phones today, a lot of time yesterday, and I know that we will be for the next couple of months supporting candidates and getting money out to people and changing our country better. So thanks.
All right, so we're gonna just fly through some comms. We kind of are gonna go to the conversation, but you know, they really need people for social media outreach.
Yeah. Can I just say a quick thing on it?
Yeah, 1 minute.
So we've got a quick link on here for ways that you can help with us. We have an urgent need for people to create posts for Facebook and Twitter and to make our posts for Facebook and Twitter. We are currently running a skeleton crew of 3 to 4 people who are making these posts. We really, really need your help to be able to get the outreach to happen. So anyone you know who's even willing to give us an hour or 2 a week to do a couple of posts would be super helpful. And next slide. This is just a alert because they are trying to fly something in under the radar. The Earn It Act is potentially going to kill our ability to have secure encryption. Lindsey Graham is trying to push it in while everything else is going on. So please go to that Action Network link, check out Fight for the Future, who's leading this effort, and help make sure that we don't lose our encryption rights. All done.
So I do want to real quick talk about the comms. When Yenny's talking about content creation, we really need people to create visuals, to be consistent on posting, and then reposting and creating verbiage for us to put out to encourage people to phone bank, to encourage people to support candidates, to encourage getting information out, like things on Earn It, like things on how successful we've been or pushing forward Congress in direct cash payments and then UBI proposals for COVID. So those are some of the things that we're really looking for, creating that sort of content going forward.
Another word from comms is if you just go to Facebook where we have made our posts, and if you can like them and engage with them, then that will keep them cycled up. When you go to Humanity First Movement group, you'll see a post and at the bottom will say like 10 shares. So that goes the 10 other groups that I've shared it to. And then at those shares, you can engage with people. And I've been able to follow up and, you know, see people comment or like a post and say, okay, good. So yeah, you're going to be at the phone banking party. Yeah, coming. And that's how you can really pull people in and get them volunteering. Right, check.
All right, Yenny, do you want to lead the breakout room kind of conversation of what's about to happen?
I'd rather someone else. I don't feel prepped for that.
All right. Who is hosting that is going to put people in breakout rooms?
I should probably pass the host over to someone who knows how to do that.
All right. Let's find out who this is. Let's see, is Andrew here? Andrew LeBert, have you sent people off into breakout rooms before?
Myself personally, no. I have not sent people out into breakout rooms. I have been a participant. However, I have not been the sender.
All right, I can try and figure my way through it.
I
can. It's actually just an easy button press.
It's not that difficult, Yenny. You're totally capable. No, you are.
Cool.
Okay, but this is the prompt question, and there's people on the live stream who are also in the comments.
There's no live stream currently.
Okay, sorry, live stream fell apart. But this is our prompt question here. So when you go out into the breakout rooms with like 4 to 5 people, we're just asking folks to, like, you know, everything you've heard tonight and everything that's going on where you are locally and the people that you volunteer with, you know, just the small group of you, just have the conversation. Whatever of this you want to talk about, we're going to take 10-15 minutes and then come back. I hope folks can stay, but I recognize we are over time.
How many rooms do we want to split into?
Kim said 6
people per
6
room?
rooms.
6 rooms?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got
Okay.
28 people.
All right. And just random assignment?
Yep.
Okie dokie. Is
Zita?
that it before I click go?
Yep. So
It-
everyone come on back at what time are we having people come back?
Co-hosts have the autonomy to move through rooms.
Okay, but what time, just so everyone knows, we're going to come back at 50, at 50 after the hour.
The host can actually bring us back into the main room.
Okay, but just so people know, you know, your
Yeah, let's say
conversations are going to
50.
be, yeah, 50.
Cool. Making the rooms now.
See you there.
See you there. Well, here comes everybody.
Yep, open the floodgates.
Hello, welcome back.
Yay. I was wondering if Chelsea and then Liz would kind of share some of the things that they talked about in our breakout room. Chelsea, do you want to go first?
Yeah. I think the breakout rooms are still emptying. It gives people 60 seconds to leave them manually.
Yeah,
Although,
but still.
this might be everyone left, yeah.
Bucket's closing.
Y'all aren't starting without me, are you?
Totally. Go for it, Chelsea.
Okay, so last week, one of our Yang Gang members in Sacramento just posted on our Facebook group a flyer for a march that was happening, hosted by NAACP and some other groups here in town. So we just asked our Yang Gang member, like, hey, do you want to make this an event for Yang Gang? And so, you know, we got a new leader to step up and start organizing our Yang Gang with us. And I think maybe 10 of us turned out for the march yesterday, and we saw a lot of folks. A lot of folks from our community were there in supportive roles to hand out masks and snacks and water bottles. It was a nice day here, but it's, you know, usually pretty hot in Sacramento. And I think that's a really good opportunity for Yang Gang to live our humanity first values, to go support protesters by providing those things and giving this like sense of abundance that we talk about all the time. It's not direct cash, but it is direct help. And I think that's a thing I'd like to see my Yang Gang do more of, and I would hope more Yang Gangs across the country do that too.
Any other rooms want to? Oh, sorry, let's go for it.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I'm not comfortable going outside just because of the COVID. So I have chosen to do more online stuff. And the one that I've chosen is the Poor People's Campaign, which on June 20th, they've got a big event online. And they're asking everybody to promote it because they've curated stories of real people as to what life is like to be poor and what their demands are. So the Poor People's Campaign, you can go to their Twitter, you can go to their Facebook, etc., and just help promote it. It's free. So that's what I do. And learn and listen.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
So the Poor People's Campaign is what Martin Luther King was doing, right? Is it a continuation of that? And I will research it, but I just wanted to hear.
I wouldn't say it's directly connected. There is reverends involved, and the reverend involved is Reverend Barber.
It is the same organization that he founded.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't know connect history there, but it's very broad.
Huh. I wonder if, because I'm in Atlanta and I live next to Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is where the headquarters was for him, and I would love to get connected to them locally. I know they did the big march on Washington. That's really all I've, I don't know how much, like Atlanta was kind of a, from what
they're doing another one.
Yeah, okay, cool. Well, I'll look into that. That's cool.
I found it very easy to get connected to my local Portland chapter through their main website. They've got a very horizontal leadership or like leader group.
Yeah, and if I may cut in here a little bit, I was mentioning this months ago that our movement, the Humanity First movement, has such a like direct connection because of guaranteed minimum income and basic universal income that to the civil rights program of Martin Luther King. And really, we can see ourselves as the continuation of the civil rights movement. because I think all the same ideas are within our movement, even though we're small. And so I would like, after coronavirus, for us to host a convention in Atlanta, the birthplace of Martin Luther King Jr., in order to signify that and to create tighter alliances with the movement that he created. Just want to throw that out there. So help us out.
Yeah. Oh, I was just typing. Atlanta Yang Gang would be stoked to host that, for sure. There's like, yeah, and there's tons of like Airbnbs and hotels like near the, yeah, it's a very inviting place, like hospitality wise, like affordable too. So yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I have no doubt. So we'll see you in 2021. Let's organize that.
I just wanted to, I think, chime in on Chelsea's comment in that for organizing like a conference of how like we would organize this summit. Sorry, the like text, the chat, I'm having trouble trying to like find it. Chelsea, would you be comfortable kind of saying, like, emphasizing that? Because I agree.
Yeah, and I don't want to like be a downer, and I don't want to shut any ideas down, but I think a lot of people, I think this entire group, we have a lot to learn about the civil rights movement before we can put ourselves into that context.
Oh no, she froze.
Well, I can. Hello.
We can hear you, Brendan.
Yeah,
Okay.
give Chelsea.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if she can get
personally, like my own experience on. Am I frozen?
Yeah. Okay, you're back.
You're back. You're muted. Ah.
Okay, is that okay?
Yes. Go for it.
Yeah. So I think it's really cool that like we have all these ideas, but I want to caution folks that there have been people fighting for our civil rights for a lot longer than we have ever been alive, and we need to recognize that, and we need to honor that work. And this is probably a time when we need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I just want to put a little hand up about that. Like, I think it's really nice when, like, kind of like what Chelsea was talking about earlier, where we come to like another organization's thing and we can like come as a group, but we basically just kind of fold in and, you know, are there to support what they want. And so like, that's the success we've had in Massachusetts, where we kind of step into the voter choice campaign, we step into Robbie Goldstein's campaign, and then they are just like, oh, we love the Massachusetts Humanity First Collective. We love Andrew Yang. Like, just because every organization needs volunteers who show up and are clear about what needs, not that they're clear about what needs to be done, but they're clear that they're there to amplify and like take direction and do what the larger organization is asking them to do, like in that context.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and if I could speak for some people here, you know, love to hear from some other people too. But the ideas are there. We owe our movement to the ideas created by Martin Luther King and other thinkers in the civil rights movement. But we are absolutely not those leaders yet. We have a lot of work to do, and we need to create a process that guides people through how they can educate themselves and meet the other leaders in their communities to learn everything that they need to know before they step up and become leaders in their own right. So I think that's a roadmap we can develop together for all of our members. But then also down the road, you know, we need to pick up the torch, and we need to unite everyone that can get together to push these revolutionary ideas across the finish line. And the Poor People's Campaign, they've been around for decades, and there's still poverty. Poverty hasn't been eliminated. And what progress have they made in the last 10 years with the Republicans like gripping Congress in their grasp and just like choking government? So there's a lot more that we can do. We got to think bigger than just the Poor People's Movement is in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of work that's been done, and just because poverty hasn't been like eliminated because one organization has existed, I think it's unfair to somehow suggest that it's because they aren't doing a good job. I think that, Yang's campaign, he very clever. Like, he had the good plan of like the way he designed his campaign and his platform was very well done and crafted, and the messaging and the way that we kind of like had these creative ideas of how to promote his ideas are strong. But also running an organization now is a completely different like place we exist. This movement is in a completely different chapter. This is not running a campaign. This is not rallying around one person. We're moving into congressional candidates. We're moving into organizing, wanting to organize a summit. There's a lot to be learned. And I think that when we talk down other organizations that have done incredible work over decades, it's just like really disrespectful. And we have to keep in mind too that if this was live streamed and this is being recorded, like do you want to get the respect of other organizations and work with them, but also then say like very kind of easily, well, like, okay, poverty is still exists, so has the Poor People's Campaign done things? I think that's where, we all need to really humble ourselves. And I'm sorry for sounding harsh. I just,
No, okay.
I think
I appreciate you saying it. Yeah, we all have a lot of humbling to do. Yeah, and if we were live streaming, or if this recording is going out, I do want to pay my respects to the Poor People's Campaign. It was an absolutely inspired campaign, and we have to stand up for the least of our brethren above everything else. The poor people should be front and center. Unfortunately, the way that I see it is that the poor people get stomped on at every turn, and unifying under the banner of the poor people just won't get enough respect from enough voters to actually implement any changes that help poor people. We have to strike people at a part of their heart that is more than just ending poverty. That's like the whole point of Humanity First. How do we put humanity first in our economy and in our politics? And I don't mean it as disrespectful. I would welcome any representative of the Poor People's Campaign to tell us how they plan to abolish poverty, how they plan to make all of this happen. And I'd like to contribute as much as we can to help them. But I think they need help. I think if we had them here in this Zoom call, that they would acknowledge that they need help. So my perspective is completely not to oppose or disrespect. It's to do the work of welding all these groups together that are screaming for social justice, that are screaming for liberation, that are miserable for decades, that have been oppressed for centuries, and to finally do the work to weld everyone together into an army that can really beat back the forces of evil and get this done. And you know, I don't know how else to communicate the need that we need to do that as soon as possible, other than using this very upfront language.
Let's go to Kiara.
Hi, I just wanted to add, I have a lot of experience in doing the exact work that everyone is talking about right now, specifically working as Blair Walsingham's political director. That's my job. My job is outreach into every affinity that you could possibly imagine in her congressional district, but not before doing the research and not before doing the painstakingly long amount of rapport building and relationship building that it takes to get there. The work that we're talking about doing, we have to take our time with. And if you want people to respect what you have to say, you have to be willing to show that you can demonstrate knowledge and understanding about what it is that they do, and that you are sincerely aligned with them. And that's not going to be happening by acting as if we have the better answers. It's recognizing that one of the unique roles that many of these organizations have is that they've got a cemented place within their communities. They are able to reach people that we have no direct connection to. We cannot diminish how important that is. We need to do everything that we can, and I'm willing to help build this and show people how it's done, show you examples of how it works. We need to build this like brick by brick, no matter how long it takes, but not by diminishing the work of other people. And I want to mention that there are grassroots political movements. I think about the Ferguson movement in 2014, the uprising that occurred after Trayvon Martin was murdered, smaller uprisings in cities like Milwaukee. I've spoken about Dontre Hamilton, and there have been results that have been produced as a result of these. Body cameras, we know that they're not that effective. We didn't know that back in 2013, but people have been chipping away at this slowly. And unfortunately, it does take a long time. So I hope that we are willing to recognize that and not try to force people too quickly. It's going to take time.
Angelo?
I mentioned this in the chat, but I feel like it should be said verbally. So we actually put on hold pushing to get a date for our chance to speak before Congress, because we felt like it would appear tone deaf to take away media attention from the issue of police brutality at this time. I feel like we have to be very careful about how we proceed forward, as to not take away from one issue and redirect attention to another, but rather use this time wisely to build that coalition, reach out to other organizations, build those relationships and connections, and really make sure that we research and build our message, so that when the issue of police brutality has finally been addressed, hopefully within Congress, we'll be ready to bring up the issue of poverty and really have a solid case that we can make. So that's my, just word of caution, is I really don't want us to appear tone deaf by trying to shift the issue away from something that's currently a larger overarching issue that's been going on in the news.
I appreciate that, Angelo. I know from Income Movements, Stacy and I have been talking, and she brought it up kind of like, yeah, what does Income Movement do in this week, and just seeing all the different people in the UBI community, and our biggest takeaway was like, we'll just support what like Movement for Black Lives is doing. What we just really need to like use this week to just show support. And I know I'm a huge UBI supporter, and one of the things I realized was like, even if you gave people money, it wouldn't stop the culture and the emotional like issue of a police shooting someone. Like that has nothing to do really, like it helps them financially, but the culture and the way that we have kind of this like emotional issue, I think that that's something UBI like cannot immediately address, and also it cannot undo the history then of what's been undone. And so that was kind of like I think where we're aligning in that right at this moment. It isn't about our issue that we have been championing for like at least the UBI community.
Faye?
Oh, you're muted.
Okay, so I feel like there is a point to learning more history. That's definitely something we should do. Okay, but at the same time, we have to realize that there is a severe resistance to bring us into the group, and yet they need us to grow, just like we need them to grow. So I think we should make more effort to actually join the groups and not just stand outside. You know, like we need to all just go and show up at the other groups, join them, and show them that we are, you have to actually be active and be in the group in order for them to slowly get to know you and learn to trust you. And so there's a building of trust period that should be going on. That's where we are right now. So I wish everybody would just, you know, find a group, go join them, and that way we could start having conversations with them, you know?
Yeah. It's an
Because
interesting.
they're not inviting us. Let's face
Yeah.
it. All right, we're just going to have to insert ourselves. This is what's happening for me with the Democrats, is I've inserted myself in the group. But it's not like they're inviting me. There was a George Floyd vigil in my town, and nobody invited me because they have a phone tree that they use, right? And the phone tree, I'm not on anybody's list like they should call Faye. So everybody called somebody that they know that they wanted to bring and they knew was safe, but I wasn't on the list, so I didn't find out until after. And I know that most people in our town didn't find out. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell people? Why didn't you put it in the newspaper? Why didn't you do this? Well, some people may come and crash the party and turn it bad because we're in East Texas. There are, you know, racist people. There are people who feel entitled to ruin a party, right? But I'm like, but you lost your opportunity to sign up all these people who might actually, you know, really want to do something about this right now. So that's the thing, is they don't understand how to grow their group, and we don't either. And we just have to like participate. That's how you do it.
And before we go to Stephen, I just want to do a shout out for the Project Connect and Learn that the Diversity and Inclusion Group is doing, where they're identifying people who during campaign time were Yang Gang that are in these different communities, and then kind of inviting them to come into us and help us grow into these different communities. So, I mean, at some point I know Kiara is doing a presentation about the kind of slow, painstaking work that she's done, like in speaking with different communities. And once we get that, we'll kind of share that more widely. But lots of people that are here on this call have that same experience too. So anyways, I'm gonna stop talking and go to Stephen.
Yeah, just to echo a lot of what everyone has said here, like I live down the street from City Hall, so I'm literally like unplanned or planned, I'll end up inside the Black Lives Matter protest anyways. But during my past 2 months, I've kind of taken a step back from HFM a little bit. I spent 2 months basically integrating myself with almost every single progressive group in this area. And some of them even think I've always been a member already. But like, I've just been talking to them, and we've been like protesting together and trading ideas. And yeah, like we're all like for UBI and Medicare for all now. And like when I go to these Black Lives Matter marches and protests, I don't see just like BLM, you know, I see people carrying signs that says cancel rent, bail out the people, COVID relief, you know, Medicare for all, like all these other signs are in this huge mob of thousands of people, you know. It's not just like, it's like the George Floyd was more of a catalyst that kind of wrapped up with the pandemic, and now it's more of a worldwide protest, a general strike essentially. And I think like this is a time where like we should be getting involved with all these other groups, because everyone, as I said, I live right down the street, and the only group I haven't seen out there thus far is Yang Gang, officially that is. I know people, you know, Yang Gang that have participated in the Black Lives Matters protest, but we haven't had an official like, you know, HFM event for people to go out there. And that's kind of like a kind of a disappointment for me in that regard.
Chelsea?
First, I want to respond because Stephen, you're in LA, right?
Yep, I live right down the street, City Hall.
Yeah, so I think maybe your experience is not representative of other folks in this group. And like, as far as like, you know, the different messages happening at a protest, I think you have to take your cues from your community leaders. And like, that's not how it is in Sacramento. Like, it is very on message here in Sacramento. I want to read a quote to you all, which has like stuck with me through the years. And it was said by a woman called Lila Watson. And she was an activist, an Aboriginal activist in Australia. And she said this to Christian missionaries who came to help her and her people in their fight for justice in the 70s. And she told them, "If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." And I think that is such a strong message of solidarity. And that's really what we need to show right now. Like, if you truly believe that UBI and a human-centered society is what we need, then you need to show solidarity now. And like, just trust that like people will see that goodness in you. And down the line, when we're ready as an organization to, you know, fight our fight, then other people will show solidarity with us too. So I really want to caution anyone from like centering UBI or Yang Gang in any kind of public display. But yeah.
Brendan?
Yeah, absolutely, Chelsea. It's interesting that I'm, you know, it seems like some people think that I'm the one that is like trying to center HFM in this whole struggle, which I totally am not. Like, I agree completely with you, Chelsea, and we need to provide a roadmap for people to investigate the local organizations in their area and get involved to get that experience. We are the newcomers, and we have so much to learn, both about our history, about tactics, about who else is out there, about the best way to go forward. There's so much learning that needs to happen. And I feel like a lot of Yang Gang are lost. A lot of, you know, I remember how I was when I was freshly converted from conservative libertarianism. I mean, I was an Ayn Rand, get rid of government type guy, totally white privilege kind of perspective. And I didn't understand about the injustices that are out there in our system and are in our history. And it took many years of struggle. And a lot of times I felt like people were making me out to be the bad guy, like it was my fault, and that I wanted to lash out at that. And I felt like, you know, people were after me after I did nothing. And I felt like I had contributed nothing to their problems. But then I realized that I did. I did, because I hadn't taken that time to learn about their struggles, to learn about the real issues, to learn about how I could get involved. And that's a process that's a coming like a heart expanding experience that everyone has to go through in order to contribute to this civil rights struggle, and also to bring in all of the values of humanity first. We can't understand the values of humanity first without understanding the civil rights struggle, or the systemic racism, or systemic sexism, or systemic homophobia, and all the other things that are out there. And we just need to make it easier for people, because I can tell you as a guy who identified as white, male, and straight, and religious for a big part of my life, like, there's some people who really, that messaging, it hurts. It hurts to be like, look at yourself as the bad guy. It's a painful process. You need friends in that process. You need someone to guide you through the valley of darkness to get to the other side. So I'm hoping we can create that together.
Florence?
Okay. So in our breakout room, one of the things I was saying was about the Yang Speaks with Bakari Sellers. That basically Yang should show some leadership in this, because whatever we do on this issue, it's to support Yang. I mean, if Yang comes out with a completely different vision on this from what we have, then that's not going to work. You know, if we want to be supporting Yang in his next presidential run. I kind of think he could show more leadership. I think on this issue, he's not always the best. The other thing we talked about in the breakout room was that I wanted to bring up was Kimberly had a real good solution, because I had brought up that someone from our local Yang gang was bringing Humanity First signs to protests, and she was getting flicked off and getting people arguing with her because they saw Humanity First as being all lives matter, and that's not what it means. But when people see Humanity First and they're carrying a Black Lives Matter sign, that's the first thing they think of. And yeah, Kimberly had some good thoughts about how she redid her Humanity First signs so to get the message across that she is supporting Black Lives Matter.
Kimberly, do you want to jump in and kind of talk about how you changed Humanity First when you were participating?
Yeah, so I had a two-sided sign. I posted it in the, I think in the shout out room. I could post it again somewhere, a picture of the signs that I made, but I kind of cut up some of the signs that are behind me. And then I also did a Black Lives Matter with Humanity First. And then on the other side, I said something about justice and equality for all Black people. And then something about integrity. And then just a small thing of UBI, not prominent, not big, but just like on the side, off to the side, you know. And then I randomly put on the stick Yang 2020. Like that was like where my hand went, and I could like show someone or I could not show someone. So it was very much like yeah.
Elaine?
Oh, I lowered my hand. Thank you.
Oh. Hey, Stephen, which were some of the groups that you've kind of embedded with that you think are, you know, that you'd recommend that people check out?
Yeah, so a lot of them are going to be local, but I would say I've embedded myself in several Bernie groups, well, ex-Bernie groups now, because they're no longer supporting Bernie. They're just like progressive groups now. Not Me, Us is a group. K-Town for All, LA Tenants Union, Green Party groups. Yeah, I think those are some of the good ones in this area. But as for everyone on a national level, I'm not so sure. I would recommend actually building bridges with any progressive group you can find in your local, you know, areas, because they've been very active in the Black Lives Matter protest so far. And, you know, just as you guys said, we need to show solidarity. What better way than marching right next to them, right?
Like the reason they didn't call me to these groups is because these are events at which it's absolutely political. The political actors in our area are all there, and they didn't want the Yang girl to be there. That's what's happening. If I'm not there with a Yang sign, nobody remembers that Yang was even in solidarity with anybody. Okay, same thing with the Humanity Forward or Humanity First. We're being made irrelevant right now. Nobody's even paying attention.
I don't think this is about us though. This is absolutely not to be like about Yang needing, like us needing to signal like, oh, look at Yang, like, oh, look at Humanity First movement, like, oh, look at like me and my Yang gang. Like, This is not about like trying to give some sort of token accolade to that Yang supports this and that we as Yang supporters support this. You
But
can
it should
show,
be. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I disagree with you. Okay, our group needs to be active. Our group needs to be actually
But
doing
it-
something,
but
and we
it
need to be
is.
organized as a group, and we need to show up with our signs, with our things, because we need to be growing. If we're not growing, then we're going to be irrelevant, and we won't be able to do the work that we want to do.
So I think that there's like confusion though between like dismissing, like I feel like that there's dismissing the concept that being an individual is very valuable and that you stand as a person as like an individual and that means something to someone. Like, and while we go as individuals to other groups, you may like also have other groups that you know, like me going to a group and saying like I'm also a part of Humanity First movement is like it's like it works in tandem because like when we branch off, even if everything we don't do is like branded, because this is like it's the difference of like the value of being a person and the effect that you have on the world and the difference between like just branding. If what we're talking about is like, are we this concerned about branding and ownership and like image, or are we concerned about growing our connections as like a movement that is just made up of a bunch of different people? Because we all like value the Humanity First values and that aspect of like holding ourselves, like talking to people. And when you naturally as individuals go and meet with other people who are not originally part of that group, that has like a positive change and a positive effect that reflects on our group. But if it doesn't have like the branding, if I don't show up somewhere, like if I don't show up to the Black Lives Matter protest in full HFM or Yang Gang gear, that doesn't mean I haven't made a difference. And I think that's just the point, like that we can get behind. We're still making a difference.
Let's go to Kiara.
I really want to agree with the points that Chelsea and Chelsea are both making right now. I have to say that, you know, some of my favorite like outreach that I conduct in any capacity is not just to groups that I think will help us make the biggest impression, but it's what I personally feel bound to and what I personally feel is important. And I don't show up like with Yang pins or Blair shirts or anything like that. I just show up as myself and have genuine conversations with people about the things that we both agree about. And then, you know, hopefully then they start to invite me and want me to be a part of their events and want me to like work alongside them. But there is no stipulation that anything having to do with what I'm affiliated with has to be a part of it. Because regardless of whether or not I'm a member of someone's campaign or a member of someone's organization, I'm there because I care. And I'm there to make a long-term commitment to them solely. I think about like the Nashville People's Budget Coalition, which I will be posting about in the Justice Reform Data channel. But as I've gotten involved with the Nashville People's Budget Coalition, I don't allude to being involved with any organization. I'm just there because I have a vested interest in my city and in divesting money away from our police departments into actual public goods. And that's just how I feel like on an individual level. And in no way, shape, or form will that ever change. So I do think that it is really important for us to have a stake as individuals.
Brendan?
Yeah, loving Chelsea's cat there, sharing screen with her. She's so cute. Yeah, so on more serious matters, Faye, I love that you're focused on growth. Like we need to grow to win. Everything that we want to do as a movement, as an organization, we need to grow in order to do it. There's just no way around it. We don't have the numbers, we don't have the resources, and our brand is pretty damn good. I mean, not left, not right, forward, humanity first, the abundance mentality. It's a beautiful set of things that can catch fire, like it's caught fire in so many of our hearts. I got to agree with Kiara and Chelsea that, you know, putting ourselves in the middle, like in the center, as like wearing branded gear and talking a lot about how we're part of the Humanity First movement and thinking that we really are equal partners at this point. I wish it was effective. It would be more fun to do that, but it's not, right? People don't respond well to that, especially people who have been struggling for so long to like reform things and get rid of these huge systemic problems that we're all facing. I think, yeah, there's a lot that we need to do to figure out how to be in their spaces as individuals, supporting them, building up those relationships, building up our network, and contributing towards their cause right now when all the attention, all the worldwide attention is on this issue of police brutality and civil rights and criminal justice. Like, this is the moment. This is when you want to rally people in order to get change to happen. And if we're successful, like, those contacts, they're going to remember us. They're going to remember that we were part of it, that we were there, that we weren't wearing our Yang hats, that we weren't like talking humanity first. And I would bet you they'll be interested and they'll want to go forward and abolish poverty with us if we show that respect. So I want to do exactly what you want to do, Faye. I want to rep HFM and the Yang Gang and UBI as much as possible. I do think we have to pick our battles. It's a hard lesson, really.
Stephen?
Yeah, I actually don't think there really is a direct right answer to this question. Like, I guess to tell the story is like, for example, the UBI car parade that Income Movement sponsored and stuff like that. I did invite, and have Bernie supporters show up. And I have to say that going forward, there are some lessons learned because it all of a sudden turned awkward when people started spray painting Yang Gang on their cars. So we would have a dozen cars going down the street, and it just seems awkward for Bernie supporters to be following a Yang Gang car. So like in those instances, branding all of a sudden becomes a problem because we're no longer fighting for this collective goal of universal basic income and bailing out the people, right? So again, it comes with some nuances. Like when I'm integrating myself with all these other progressive groups, I don't go in there saying I'm Yang Gang. I fight for their causes, and in exchange, they help me fight for my causes. Like I go to your protest, then maybe you could send some people over to my protest or my marches. That's the type of bridge building that I'm referring to. To Faye's point, yeah, it's awesome. And it sounds great, to have, Yang Gang show up at these marches wearing a math hat or a t-shirt too. I mean, nothing's wrong with that, but we do have to understand the nuance behind it. Like, for example, if we're going to show up at a Black Lives Matter protest wearing a math hat, we better probably be holding a Black Lives Matter sign, We can't be out there fighting for UBI. But obviously, I do live in Los Angeles, so the progressive groups here are very diverse. And not just that, but I've been watching the news all over the world, and all these other protests and marches everywhere else, they've been getting bigger and bigger, and there is a consolidation of all these protest groups in there. That's why I was saying there could be more signs than just, the current Black Lives Matter and George Floyd, messages, and there could be other messages that involves, economic relief for people because everyone is just hurting right now, and there's a variety of different reasons that they are. Just keep in mind there's definitely nuances, and there's no set answer on one specific way of doing things. It's always going to be situational.
I think Angelo's next.
Thank you. I didn't want to have to put it this way, but I feel like it's the only way that I can express the seriousness of this. To make it clear, we don't want to build our branding on someone's grave. And that is what I'm worried that we're, flirting with that idea.
Yeah.
We want to honor the dead, and we want to participate in demanding justice for those who have passed due to police brutality. We don't want to build, like I said, we don't want to build our branding on someone's grave. It's tactless and it feels very dirty, would be the word I'd actually use for it. So instead, like Stephen said, it's fine to go to protests and things like that where we're wearing our math hats and, low-key brand that way. But it's like the Yang Gang isn't there because it's a Yang event. The Yang Gang isn't there because it's about us. These protests have nothing to do with us. They are us showing solidarity for someone else's cause. And that is how we build those bridges. That's how we, develop those strong relationships. Because anything less than that, if we're trying to push our own message, if we're carrying a UBI sign or something, that's going to look extremely tactless. And that's just my opinion, but that's how I feel it would be perceived. And I feel like instead we should be marching with allies in support of their cause. And then when their cause has, run its time, they're no longer doing protest stuff like that, that's when it's our time to be able to push the issue of UBI and things like that. Because I feel like, at that point, we're not stepping on anyone's raw nerves. We're not being tactless about it. We have done our times in the trenches with them. They're going to feel more comfortable, aligning themselves with us in the future. But like I said, the last thing we want to do is try and brand ourselves right now in the middle of a serious issue where someone's life has been taken.
Thank you. I think sometimes it really needs that level of bluntness, for sure.
I guess I had a hand. I see there's some pushback on data driven, but it's very hard to find organizations that make a difference. Just having volunteered with a number and both in and outside the country, people have so much goodwill and time and money and effort. So there really is some value in figuring out for everybody doing it locally, what are good, structural things that are backed by data, kind of like Kiara was talking about earlier, that, at one point people were like body cameras are definitely going to make an impact, but the research has not borne that out yet. So, it's not like I'm in love with data driven for the sake of statistics, but it's just we want to put our, efforts into something that is actually going to make a difference, not just make us feel good. And I'm not saying anyone's doing it because they feel good, but a number of the organizations I've been involved with over the years, that was a key thing that they made this call. When people are well, why do you want to do that? And they would say, we're not just doing this to signal and feel good about ourselves. We're doing this because we're trying to cause this transformational change. We can't keep playing at this versus that. So it's I don't know why the word data driven is triggering. It's really just, we're trying to collect
I can explain
solutions.
it if you would like
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, it's one of those things that's like credentialism. So there's no reason why people can't talk about something without the data, right? So if you're shutting down the conversation because I don't have enough data, that's not going to help for me. I need a room where we can talk about things, and it's not because I don't have data to provide. I'm just a mom, but I think moms have opinions that are useful. It's not that, oh, everybody's got an opinion because, whatever. I'm talking about, people have ideas and they're not elevated because they are poor or because they don't have time. They don't have energy to be researching. They don't know how. They've never been educated. I mean, I may have the education to do it, but I don't have time to be finding all the information. I don't know all the people. If somebody wants to help me, that's great. You know, but how do I get help if I don't have anywhere to say that? I think it's great that, you know, you think data will help bring the message. Okay, well, that's great, but I don't know where to go or how to do it, right? Do I have the right friends to do that? I'm hoping to find them here. So our group needs to make ourselves more relevant at this time. I think that we're going to continue losing people. I'm not seeing more people show up to meetings, I'm seeing fewer people. So that's the problem for me. What is the point of joining in these meetings if we have fewer people to talk to, right? So that's why it's fine to go out to other places and do your thing. But, you know, this group is going to die. I'm going to say it right now, right here, if we don't hurry up and figure out how to grow.
I think that that's, you know, very, like, I think that that sentiment of what people are feeling and facing in this movement is like, doesn't quite correlate, I think, with what's happening in the protests, but I definitely understand, like, it's hard. We all came together, you know, for this campaign and for this movement, and without, you know, how do we stay together and how do we grow? That's I think for me, I feel like it's a long-term goal that will happen, but I think that because of the momentum that presidential campaigns have, that there is then a heightened perception of loss after it. Because growing an organization, coordinating in real life, like building community takes a much longer time than anything that you will see in presidential campaigns. And so I do, like, you know, want to express that, like, I totally empathize with, like, yeah, this feeling of, like, the sadness that, like, we would lose each other, and we don't want to lose each other, and we don't want to witness something that was so. Brendan, did you want to say something?
No, I was just waving goodbye to Kimberly. Go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, like, I definitely understand that, and I know that like, yeah, I empathize with that, and we do need to find, and I guess the thing is that, like, one question is, like, we want to make a difference, we want to get stuff done, but obviously, like, community and, like, just staying connected is really important to us. And I think also, like, these kind of conversations that we have, like, I think are valuable too, in the way that, you know, we're still coming here and we're talking, and a lot of people in the pace of the campaign, I actually haven't really, like, connected with a whole lot of people the way that some other people have. And so I think that that's, like, I don't think that that's kind of going anywhere, at least. But maybe, like, you know, proposal orientation of, like, what our vision is for this organization. Maybe it's more, like, community based. In that way, it, like, can hold the sustainability that we need for, let's say, a 2024 run.
Yeah. Community based. We have to create that community. It's so hard. I'm still making comments here. This is great. So real quick, I've been in community organizing and volunteering for political campaigns and political causes for the last 9 years. And yeah, it's not that much time compared to some of the people you'll find on the trail that have spent decades doing this. But in the decade that I've had in it, I'll just let you know there's cycles, Faye. Like every year is different based on whether there's a presidential election, a congressional election, if there's something in the national news that is really animating and motivating. Like it breaks my heart, but Black Lives Matter started in 2014 and it flared, like these types of protests have flared up before again and again. And this is certainly bigger than it's ever been. And I'm so happy for that. But I think we just got to be patient. We got to hold our breath, because come September, I promise you, all the activists and all the volunteers and all the people that are interested in politics, they're going to be all focused on Biden versus Trump, Biden versus Trump, Biden versus Trump. Who should I vote for? It's just going to be like in your ear. It's going to be annoying. And that's all that people can focus on. You can try to talk about UBI in those 4 months, but in a lot of cases, they just want to know who the next president is. That's our political system. And but come 2021,
Oh, it froze.
who? Anyone? Oh, shoot. Hello, can you hear me? Anyone?
Now we can.
You're back
Hello?
now.
Yeah. I really should try to be less long-winded, but I just want to give you some confidence, Faye, that after the presidential election, there's going to be a lot of people thinking, what's next for the Republicans? What's next for the independents? What's next for the Democrats? What's next for the progressives? And there's going to be all these activists like looking for where their next political home is. And that's when we want to strike. That's when we want to grow. That's when we want to invite people onto the projects we're working for. And I think it's useful to kind of see things through this lens of like, we're part of a greater ecosystem, you know? We don't have to just grow in order to survive. Like, we're not going to die if we just maintain our size for a little bit, at least not till 2021. There's going to be some great times ahead to grow and get new allies. I promise you. And I want to be like the firebrand activist that is just like humanity first. Like, I totally get it. I do think there's moments that are more appropriate towards being supportive.
There's no time like right now, okay? We've made ourselves irrelevant to what's happening right now because maybe you don't feel that you're a person of color, or maybe you don't feel that you're old enough to be a civil rights leader. Okay, I don't care what the reason is, but we are irrelevant. That's just how it is, and that's what I see. Okay, what we're doing, if you don't think that what we're doing is important enough to be spoken into right this moment, then when is it going to be important? When all the issues have been fixed by other people? I don't think so.
Oh, if they got
what we're
fixed
saying is
by-
something more important in a sense.
But if they got fixed, if all those other people fixed all the problems, if the other people did, well, that would be great for me.
Sure, but they're not doing it because we're not there. We need to help them be doing it.
But
And we have a unique message, which is that we need unity among all the groups, which we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. We brought in people who were Republicans into the Democratic Party. They call us the Democrats over there. Okay, just like my Democratic friends that talk to me, they constantly irritate me by calling Trump, Trump tard or something. And I'm like, when they say that, I just give them the eye, the evil eye. And then some people think that I'm a Republican. I'm not. Okay, we have a unique message that we should be bringing. And we need to actually be the ones stitching all these people together, but we're not doing it. We're not doing the job that we should have been signed up for. Instead, we've said, oh, this is, too heavy for us, and we shouldn't be putting our names. I mean, it's silly.
No, no one's saying that. No one's saying that this is too heavy of a issue. It's that
I just heard we'd be building our brand on somebody's death. I mean, that's ridiculous. How many politicians are out there building their brand on his death right now? Because that's what they're supposed to do. Their job is to lead, to do something, right? And so they have to propose the solutions. We're not proposing solutions. We're saying we are useless. We have absolutely nothing to say about this because we don't have a message that's important, you know?
no, we have a like
No, what I'm saying is that we are, by trying to push UBI or other issues that we stand for right now, it would be building our brand on someone's death, but in the most tactless way possible, which is what I'm concerned about. Instead, we should be working to build alliances rather than advertising our own issues directly. This way, we have that foundation to build on later. And by later, I don't mean years down the road. I don't mean after the election. I mean after this particular issue of police brutality, which has been around for 30 plus years, gets resolved. Now, we can obviously contribute to that conversation, but we should not be trying to contribute our own, like pushing UBI when they're saying demilitarize the police. That's what I'm trying to say.
Why don't we have a demilitarize the police policy? I think we do. I think our group would agree with that.
Yes, but that needs to come from Andrew Yang himself. Now, we as a group can try to suggest that policy, but we don't have the kind of reach that we would need to even begin to crack that into the national level. We would need allies and we would need connections that we don't have yet. We are still barely establishing those connections. And that's the point. We need to be reaching out. And it's not like we're sitting idle during this time. We need to use this time where we're not pushing the UBI message or, democracy dollars or, the American scorecard, although I think that one would be great for this particular instance. We need to be out there reaching out to other groups and saying, we're with you, we will march with you, we will support you in your effort. We will hold up signs that have your banner on it, because that's how we get those connections. That's how we get that kind of unity so that we can start to build a coalition. Because right now, what we don't want to do is take away from the attention they're getting and say, well, what about me over here? We still got that UBI thing going on. We don't want to do that. We want to be very, very careful on how we tread on this issue and actually approach it in a very tactful way. Now, I'm all for us saying, body cameras for police, making sure that that body camera footage is required in court, which Andrew Yang has done in recent podcasts. I'm all for us having a policy to demilitarize the police, because police don't really need access to a tank. All those things are wonderful, and we should be definitely pushing those. I'm just saying, let's make sure that we're not trying to draw attention for ourselves during a time when where it looks like we're just trying to take away attention from another movement for ourselves. That's what I'm saying.
Steven, you want to jump in?
Oh yeah, I think we just all agree on that we should be doing more during this time. I think that's a common thread, right? There's plenty of messages that we could be pushing, like I mentioned, like people first, equality for all, racial injustice. Standing against some of those ideas and for some of those ideas could be what we should be doing. But to address what Faye also brought up, it's like, I think Faye is right on a lot of things. It's just contextually it might not be agreeable at this moment. I do agree that it's true that I don't see Yang Gang has grown at all. In fact, I feel like we've been decreasing by 10 times, as I mentioned in the last meeting. you might be spending a lot of effort on different outreaches with different groups, but our membership count and our influence and, you know, everything else has been dropping significantly. And that's just the problem with Yang Gang itself, because we never grew out of the Andrew Yang phase. We needed to redefine what HFM is for, which is for these values that we are creating. And it's not going to be tied to one candidate. So for those reasons, we could easily go out there and march with Black Lives Matter for a lot of these similar values that cause the problems in the first place of why there's police brutality, why there's violence, why there's racism in the world. You know, like those messages we can, you know, fight for too as HFM. We just have to do it appropriately.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been shut down to actually have an appropriate response. Instead, we're replacing it with no response at all.
Let's workshop this with a mindset of abundance. You know, so Faye, what would you suggest that we do to rectify this? Like, should we put out a PR statement about some ideas or something like that?
No, you don't have to do any advertising. You have to organize. So we need a room to talk about it. Nobody's even here to talk about it. If you want to participate in anything, you just go somewhere else. So you're just like, well, I don't have time for this group, because this group is doing nothing having to do with George Floyd. Nothing at all. There's one thread. I mean, we don't even have a room. We have like 100 working groups. I don't know how many. I can't figure out how many we have, but we don't have a single one talking about the protests, how people are feeling. And this is the #1 topic. They just got the highest amount of money from GoFundMe ever. And so we're talking about, we want to get more money for this or more money for that. I'm not saying this is a politician thing. Oh, you know, take somebody else's credit. No, it's that you're just not there. You just didn't exist when this thing happened. You know, you disappeared. It's very disappointing.
Kiara just pointed out that the diversity and inclusion group is talking about that very subject and has been.
True, and I'll just note that as much as I love the diversity and inclusion group, they still haven't gotten attendance that I would expect from our organization, and I think there's more that can be done. I was trying to, I want to drive attendance to that working group. There's great stuff happening there, but like also we need to be encouraging our local chapters to be organizing all of our volunteers to get involved in these protests. We need to put out public relations statements, and I think there is more that we could do, even as we play a supportive role as individuals in certain circumstances.
So if your local group, like San Gabriel Valley SoCal group or whichever group, you know, if you have a local group that you're involved in, you're like, why should I go to the Slack? I should get to know stuff here. And then maybe our group is doing a few little things. But we need a national organization that coordinates some efforts. That's what the Slack is for. And if we have 20,000 people signed up, most of whom didn't see a reason to show up, we have to give them a reason to show up. There's no reason to show up to Slack. Why bother? You're just wasting your time, right? If you show up to Slack, somebody else could tell me what happened in 10 minutes. So if you want people to show up, you have to ask people to show up. Okay, we got to send out emails or send out however we can contact our membership. Let them know that we want to do something together, and that how can they do something? Maybe just come and talk, you know, and tell us what your solutions are. Maybe we'll find something that we can do as a group. Like for me, I'd be like, maybe we could do a letter writing campaign together. You know, we can just write letters however we feel. It doesn't even have to be a group like we all agree on this one particular solution. But write letters to your police departments urging them to be peaceful. How about that? Or something simple, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the suggestions, Faye. I think there's much more that we could do here in Arizona. So I'll be fighting here at least to organize some stuff.
So I don't have a local group. You are my group. You guys are my group, the national group. Okay, I don't have a local group, so I'm not even going to go to Dallas to go participate in that. So when there's nothing happening here, it's like I'm just by myself doing whatever I want. And I don't have any, I don't feel like our group is relevant right now. It's not useful. Now, the other things that you guys are doing, I don't want to take away from that, okay? Getting people elected and stuff like that. It's not useless. I'm sorry. I'm just getting upset by, you know, trying to get the point across that George Floyd is very important, and we should treat it as something that belongs to us too. We live here in this country.
Yeah, I appreciate your perspective, Faye. I only see it as productive. You know, I'm the working group lead of Grow 10X, and I can tell you that we're looking into growth strategies for candidate support and rallying people for congressional campaigns. Now it makes me think that we should turn our sights towards, you know, organizing our volunteers and getting involved in these protests. Or there's so much we could do, Faye, really. I wonder where we can take this, since it's you know, 11 o'clock in the Eastern time zone. Does anyone have any suggestions to Faye and all the rest of us of how we can come up with some action items for trying to lead the charge a bit more?
Let's actually let Chelsea and Joyce say what they've been waiting to say, and then we can come back to that.
Sure. Okay.
Chelsea?
Yeah, I guess I feel a lot of Faye's frustrations because George Floyd's life is important and his murder is important. And as Yang Gang, we should be talking about it and doing something about it. And like, I disagree with maybe, you know, the different ways people have said we might do something, but like, I think we are all in agreement on that, on, you know, the fact that this matters. Or I would hope we're all in agreement there. And I noticed you mentioned like in the group chat that, you know, like after our stuff in Sacramento, where was the communication to Humanity First Movement? And you're right to call me out on that. I wasn't communicating. And I think a lot of it is I don't find value in a lot of the stuff that's happening with Humanity First. Like, I think the greatest thing to come out of this, like, and not to diminish all the hard work, I think the greatest thing, the thing that like brings me joy from Humanity First Movement is the work that Kiara and other folks are doing in the diversity and inclusion subgroup. And so like, I don't want to get involved any more than I already am. And it's weird to me, and I guess I should be more aware of this, that there are Yang Gang out there who are just floating off by themselves. And I don't know how to support you because I'm doing everything I can in my community and I feel like I'm at my limit and I don't know what else to do or how to support you.
Joyce, you want to jump in?
Actually, I haven't formulated my thoughts very well yet, but I feel like I agree with like most of what's being said. At the same time, rats, I lost it already. I completely forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I'll raise my hand again if I remember what I was going to say.
That's why, Joyce, sometimes I type it into the chat for myself because I'll forget what I wanted to say because there's so many important things going on.
If I can say one last thing, I feel like with so many groups on Slack, we we don't always know what every group is doing, to be honest. And it's hard to keep up and catch up. That's why these Sunday meetings have been so important in at least finding out what each group is doing. Although I think only like maybe 10% of the groups have actually put in a slide and actually presented. So it's important to keep up to date on what all of the groups are doing so that we know, okay, like diversity inclusion is doing something, you know, discussing the issue with George Floyd and, you know, demilitarizing police and that stuff. Great. We should be involved in that because it's absolutely, you know, vital to what's going on right now. I just wish that there was a more effective way to communicate what is like at the top of the list for each group right now, so that this way we know what we should be prioritizing in a way to kind of gather people from other groups that may, you know, be a little bit more stale at the moment and say, hey, there's this other thing going on over here you may want to get involved in, so that we can start to focus our efforts on things that are at the highest priority and then move our way down that list.
See, Joyce has her hand up again.
Okay, so it was sort of a two-part thing. On the one hand, yes, we have all sorts of stuff to policies and ideas to offer. But I think the number one thing that's needed right now is for people to have a chance to lead. So not a non-Black organization to jump in with things that we think are great for them, but to just to take the lead and to follow their lead for a while, and because you can't build trust while being the group that comes in from outside and says, here, we have the answer. But if we're showing solidarity, then we will have a better voice, a stronger voice that will be more trusted when the time comes that they need to actually build policies. Like that we as a people need to build policies. I think that's, yeah, I think hosting conversations between disparate groups is hugely important. That's one of my big things that I think are undervalued and not done enough. Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
Anyone else?
So, yeah, I think that there are several really good organizations out there, and it seems like we can all do some research and some education about what's going on, and then like we'll share what we've been doing. And yeah, we can share it in the Division Inclusion Justice Reform Data channel.
I feel like we've given the board and all of us a lot to think about as far as how we can direct our energies to what's most pertinent right now.
And to me, it's all about like, you know, nobody is waiting for anyone. Like if it is to be done, you know, the person that sees it has to be done has to do it. We have to scale. You know, the board is so small. They're not like the arbiters of what should or shouldn't be done. The state should just do what they're do and then tell people about what they're doing, and other states will get excited about it. And, you know, like there's a large collective conversation going on.
I mean, like in terms of the people that have the authority to post in announcements and things like that, so that we can get pertinent information much quicker.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also what the operations channel is for. Anyone can post in there, and everybody's in there.
Okay, I was wondering what that channel was actually for.
It's not meant to be like a free-for-all posting. Like if, like kind of when in doubt, the break room is the place to start. But operations is like, you know, like California was having a voting symposium. They publish it in there. You know, somebody else was like, oh, proposals is, you know, take a look at how they're doing their, you know, pin posts in their meetings, or where we've opened the proposals process, or, you know, diversity and inclusion released a survey, you know, that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Also, I wanted to ask Kiara, since we have you here, what is diversity and inclusion working on right now, since you guys didn't really have a chance to go into much depth during the meeting?
We canceled our meeting previously for the last week, by and large, because people, you know, seem to be having a really hard time this week, and I went to a protest. But I've been giving lots of presentations in the meetings, and we've also been focusing primarily on the Project Connect and Learn. We paused the conversations on those projects the week before this previous meeting to have roundtable discussions about Joe Biden, Andrew Yang, George Floyd, and the protests that have happened as a result, and people's feelings surrounding them as well, giving people the space to acknowledge those things. And I have been wanting to post about the Nashville People's Budget Coalition's plan. They've outlined, and they've been sort of leading this discussion on defunding and divestment, and it's been moving really rapidly. I initially wanted to make this a post for the Justice Reform Data channel, but I almost think it might be really beneficial for me to break it down. There's also an upcoming presentation that, you know, if people want to come this week and see it, it's largely based on a conversation that I've had with one of the members of the Black Yang Gang, Dwight Howard, who is somewhat connected to the Melanated Council of Yang. And it ties in, and this is actually all happening, like we had this conversation before George Floyd, but a lot of what we touched in actually ties into this. And I think that it would be really, really beneficial for people to come and hear and gain some more perspective about like just how deeply seated these issues are that we're facing, because there are lots of layers to this. It's not just police brutality. It's where did the mentalities that police officers have come from? So I want to dive into that as well. Like, what can we do about that? And that will be touched upon this week, just to give you guys an idea.
I'm gonna jump in. I liked Chelsea Wilkinson's plan of like, you know, everyone here leaving this conversation and doing what they can to educate themselves or formulate their own action plans and then updating the group. And I think that update, we should just do it in the break room. Like, this should be a conversation throughout the whole Yang Gang, and like we should be talking about this in the break room, not just in the diversity and inclusion working group where they have other projects going on. Because like, yeah, everyone in the Yang Gang has something to do here. And then I'm thinking more about Faye's situation, and I'm sure there are other people in this country who are the lone wolf Yang Gang in their community. And so I'm wondering if there's like a way we could get a group together of those individuals who are disconnected, because my experience with Yang Gang is very different than Faye's. And I don't think Faye and I are going to be able to like span that difference right now, because we're both so in our own little worlds. Like, it would be more helpful to me to talk to someone who also has like a robust Yang Gang community. It would be more helpful for Faye probably to talk to someone else who's kind of out there on their own and fighting the good fight. So I think that would be a nice change I'd like to see.
Yeah. I like just doing the break room. I think for something that requires kind of a present moment and that there's a little bit of a momentum, trying to figure out how to organize it, to like structure it, can sometimes defeat the purpose of the kind of like organic process and presentness that can occur. Like, I know one thing I did that's like super easy and doesn't take a lot of work was I did like the Netflix party. So like Netflix party has an extension, Google Chrome extension, that you can use to like watch something together. And it has like a little chat feature. But so I like did that and watched the movie Moonlight and with like some of my family members and friends. But there's like a ton of really cool documentaries and film that's on Netflix, like 13.
Hello.
I have a question, actually. Hey,
Go
Brandon.
ahead. Hey, what's up?
I actually have a question for the group here, everyone here. Is it possible for us to get a list of, just a short summary of like what the Yang Gang is doing in the national Slack, like all the groups, everything, just what are we doing, what's current projects that's on the table that we can, like a document or something, so we're not, worrying about getting Zoom bombed or anything, but just to document with a short summary of all the groups and what they're doing that we can post up on our social media in various ways to actually be able to inform people on what's happening here at the national level. Because I remember I was speaking to the Yang Gang member tonight that has been a little frustrated with the national Slack because she has no idea what's going on. She knows the group she's in. She doesn't even know how to open the Slack and see all of the different working groups that are available, not counting, of course, the ones that are locked. So she's wanting to know if we could get like just a summary that we can put out weekly, something that, we can post out on all of our local social media and of course Twitter and everywhere to let people know these are the opportunities that are going on at the national level. If you want to get involved, here's how to sign up. This way people aren't kind of in the dark about, oh, well, there's something going on at the national level. We've heard like maybe one or two groups, but we don't really know everything that's going on.
Yeah, I would just like to say, with all these technical difficulties that I'm having, so like it seems the base wants exactly what the leadership wants of all the working groups. We just haven't actually put in the work. And so like right now we're sending people out to reactivate the old Yang Gangs and see still in it and all that. We're doing this like recruitment process through regional organizing. But like there's a lot more that needs to be done to judge exactly what projects are going on out there. I think the working group themselves, but then there's some outside groups that we still need to contact to bring into the wider movement. People actually need to get involved and do this, because I feel like I'm doing this alone sometimes, but like it's easy to be an ambassador. All of us here in this meeting can be a good ambassador for the movement. Good night, Faye.
Good night,
I don't
Faye.
know. But I have some suggestions from an event that we did here in Arizona, if anyone's interested, or we could just wrap up the meeting. Pretty late.
Well, we might as well let people know what's going on in Arizona, because we don't want to create a disconnect between the local and national level.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay, thank you. There was a little bit of a pause there. Yeah, so here in Arizona, we had an event that was we hosted with our partners, the Humanist Society of Greater Phoenix. They had access to a parking lot, and they run a community center in Mesa, Arizona, and it was a simple space. I imagine there's lots of people with this same amount of space, even private homes, or perhaps there's some organizations that can help you out with this space. But we had a social distance required and to represent for Black Lives Matter. We had one of our members, DeQuarius McClinton, who is a police brutality survivor himself, tell the group, mostly white people and mostly Democrats recruited by Suzanne Hugg and humanists that belong to the community center, were able to listen to stories about police brutality, and then also hear from our vice president about policy reform ideas, the 8 Can't Wait list of policies. And we championed those policies, and took some great video, got some great audio, and basically just represented for the community. The mayor of Mesa turned out. It turned out to be a great event. It's very easy, very cheap. It took an hour. It took a lot more hours before that to organize it and get the speakers involved, but I recommend to all local chapters to try something like this that brings many different organizations together.
Not to pivot, but I'm curious, is Arizona working directly with Suzanne Hugg's campaign? Like, did you guys formally endorse her?
Yes, we did.
Awesome. And who's most working with her? Like, if people want to volunteer with her campaign, like, who's the point person that they should kind of find out what needs to be done? And
Either myself or Brendan can get that information to you.
but I mean, you're the
Yeah.
ones who are regularly in conversation with the campaign and are regularly running Arizona volunteers
Yes.
for that? Okay.
Yes, ourselves or Ron Russell also.
Sweet. We will add you to that list.
Yeah, her campaign manager is excellent, Tanya. She does great work, and she would love more phone bankers. They can get out like a dozen phone bankers on a good day, and so any volunteer helps.
That is more phone bankers that the Andrew Yang campaign was able to turn out nationwide on a regular basis. So good on them. We would have like 5 people phone banking in the whole nation.
Seriously?
Bad. Yes, it was terrible. Like, there was a reason why they switched to text banking, and everyone was like, "Why aren't we phone banking anymore?" I'm like, "Who are you?" Like, we were like begging people, like, "Can we at least get 5?" Sometimes we'd have only 3. Oh, it was so
Yeah.
sad.
I was trying to phone bank the whole campaign, but I was never, I didn't realize that I had to be in the Slack to do it.
It was a lot to do in a short amount of time, Catherine. What can we say?
Yeah, I mean, it's all water under the bridge, but you know, that is good. And Jermaine, they're getting 25 people to phone bank. But I mean, like, granted, he's in the last week, so people are.
That's great. I wanna help out tomorrow. Sorry that I've been so busy. Love to hear from anyone else. I know we have a big audience here.
Yeah, Ray, we haven't heard from you. How's it going?
Hello.
Hey, hey. Are you Ray
Hey,
from nowhere?
Yeah, I'm moving. It's from nowhere or from now here, depending on how you look at it.
Very nice.
Right now, I am here in Wisconsin. Normally, I live in Las Vegas, but this is my family is. I've been visiting with them. Been here for about a week now, and it is beautiful and very, very good to get out of the Vegas heat. It was 105, 107 last 2 days there, and the AC went out. So I was very happy to be here. Green Bay, Wisconsin. Green
Joyce,
Bay, Wisconsin.
Joyce, what part of Wisconsin are you in?
I'm in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and I plan, I love to bring it up, and I haven't got much traction yet, but I know it's going to grow. I plan to be in Milwaukee for the DNC convention, and that's about it for my plan. People always want to know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I'm going to be there, and I plan to make noise, whether it's inside the building, outside the building, rocking my Yang Gang stuff.
Yes.
If there is any other big movements still going heavy, kind of related to the earlier conversation, it's just like when I was on the campaign. In order to get your foot in the door, with an idea, you're there to support and you agree. Oh yeah, I like so and so is my second favorite, but and let them talk about how much they like their favorite, and then now I bring in Andrew Yang. I've given them agency. I let them think they're controlling the conversation, and now they're open to a new idea, which they previously had a guard up to. And so, but I never had a second favorite. It was Andrew Yang and a big, huge drop off a cliff, and then maybe I could pull a name out of a hat. So that was just only my suggestion if you go to a protest, which I've been in many protests. And when I was in Standing Rock, we had many supporting groups help our protests there as well. There was the Police Watch. It was a group, I would say similar to Black Lives Matter. Cop Watch it was called, I think. And the way they did it was they were just like, you see their apparel, you see their hat or their shirt or whatever, maybe they'd see our math hat and you say, somebody would ask you, what's math mean? And maybe they got a guard up and you just say, I am part of a group, but I am here to support you guys. I want to talk about this first. And as soon as you get through that moment, now secondary, always mention them first, put them first, we talk about the elders, make it leading the movements or the protests for the day. And then you can follow up with, for me, what is the only thing that I really want to talk about, and that's UBI. Sorry.
So Kiara, I'm kind of curious. I know we're all going to hear the Thursday presentation, but any highlights or things that you think are like really that we could, more immediately act on that Dwight was chatting about with you? Huh, we don't hear you. I don't know if you're talking, but I see you're unmuted.
Kiara?
No audio. Well, we'll have to come Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Suspense.
Well, Brendan, I'm telling you now, I might be a little late to the Arizona meeting. You're still muted.
What is up with this muting?
Brendan, you're muted. Unmute.
So weird.
Yeah, I've
Everyone-
encountered that problem with Zoom recently where I couldn't unmute people.
Yes, there you were. Oh, and then you went.
What? Talking about me? Can you hear me?
Yes, there you are.
Yes,
can hear you now.
finally. Okay, wait. I was talking to you for a second, but I guess I was muted. What was the question again? I just checked in on my fiance.
Oh.
She's watching a movie without me.
I was just going to say, I might be a little late to the Sunday meeting to actually catch the diversity and inclusion meeting.
Yeah, that's just fine. We're trying to stagger meetings more at
Thursday meeting, sorry.
HFAZ. Yeah, and we can try to postpone that meeting too, but I'm glad that we did our mental health awareness week before all this went down, because people really need to keep that in mind, I would suggest. But there are meetings that take precedence. I would say that one is definitely one you should attend.
Yeah, that meeting is really healthy. Like between, Kiara's being, the amount of work that she puts in to like prep those presentations is amazing. But then other folks coming in, Heather, and the groups that she's leading, there's so much growth and energy happening in that group. It's really awesome.
Yeah. And I'm glad, Stephen, to hear so much from you about all the volunteering you've been doing in all these other organizations. I think that could bring a lot of insight to the diversity inclusion group and our movement too. So thanks, brother.
No problem. There's definitely a lot of treacherous waters in those things as well. Everything has its own issues.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's the big hill we have to climb is, the Bernie campaign had a number of volunteers that we would be happy to have, but they still could not crack the media. So it's not until we have that, community organizing where we are networked and, we can have these alternative channels of conversations that we can get organized such that we can crack through and, take over the political process enough to get some of these ideas through and start kind of opening the wedge to get back to a human-centered society rather than a dollar-centered society.
Oh, that reminds me, actually, I wanted to ask Kiara something. The Yang Gang Roundtable podcast, we've already had Tim Ryan on there. We just finished interviewing Ro Khanna on there. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to come on the show and discuss what's going on here at the national level with diversity and inclusion, because I feel like that would be a great way to get the Yang Gang activated, and some of the members of our listening group that aren't Yang Gang. We did find out that Congressman Tim Ryan was actually a fan of the Yang Gang Roundtable podcast, which is why we were able to get him.
that does make me really nervous, but I would love to do it. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, sure. Let's coordinate.
All right, excellent. Do you have a Twitter account so I can actually add you to the chat room and let everyone know in there what's going on?
Yes, I'm gonna send it to you right now.
Thank you.
I would love to promote that video, Kiara. Please use your title, Diversity Inclusion Working Group Lead. Let's make this stuff sound official.
And that applies, and this also applies to other members of the board. If you would like an opportunity to speak to the broader Yang Gang via the Yang Gang Roundtable podcast, or be involved in the next podcast that we have where we have a celebrity guest, please let me know so I can get you in contact.
Brendan, can I just remembered that I had to ask you.
Yeah.
So our candidate, Robbie Goldstein in Massachusetts, are you the one who has the connect to Nerds for Humanity? Or who's the one who has that connect?
I have his email address.
I have his phone number.
Angelo, can you help us get Robbie Goldstein an interview? Like, does he interview candidates?
He does actually. Well, he interviews candidates. So does Russell from Grassroots Yang Gang, Boyce from Mindful Skeptics. I can get you all of them, including Zach and Matt.
Yes, please. We need this guy to have more media because he does not. And then especially if they can get the clips of it, or I don't know, like I guess it can be in the other channels, but it's like there's going to be like that last couple of weeks where everyone's like, who are these people? And they're just going to Google. And it's like, we need these good,
Please ask them if they have a press kit, because if they do, that makes things a whole lot easier. If they do not, just have them throw something together really quick and I can send it out to all the different channels and start getting these YouTubers on board where I can get everyone starting to negotiate. So
is there somewhere where they have like do you have like a write-up of all the YouTube channels that
I'm
that
actually
you would circulate it to?
Well, I'm actually in a chat room with all of the major YouTubers. There is something really big going on, which I haven't been able to announce publicly, but they did ask me to ask the board about this, so I can announce it here as long as everyone here agrees to keep it secret until we have an official working date.
All right, I'm going to pause the recording. Sorry,